3 Sundays ago, we started this series, Dumb Ideas. And we talked. My Ugandan accent may come out a little bit this afternoon, and I apologize because it comes out when I'm really tired. I've worked very hard to strip it away. Ugandans do not sound like this. We talked about Andrew's joke that he threw out as a dumb idea. Jesus had asked him to figure out a way to feed 5,000 people, and all he could come up with was a joke. And if you're familiar with the story or you were here that weekend, you remember that Jesus took Andrew's dumb idea and flipped the script with it. Now, what generally tends to happen after moments like that is pandemonium. People went nuts. And so it made sense that Jesus and his disciples would want to get away from the chaos. And so they did. Let's read it together, Matthew 14. As soon as the meal was finished, he insisted that the disciples get in the boat and go ahead to the other side while he dismissed the people. With the crowd dispersed, he climbed the mountain so he could be by himself and pray. And he stayed there alone late into the night. Meanwhile, the boat was far out to sea when the wind came up against them, and they were battered by the waves. At about 4 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came walking towards them on the water, and they were scared out of their wits. "A ghost," they said, crying out in terror. But Jesus was quick to comfort them. "Courage, it's me. Don't be afraid." Peter, suddenly bold, said, "Master, if it's really you, call me out to come to you on the water." He said, "Come ahead." Jumping out of the boat, Peter walked on the water to Jesus. But when he looked down at the waves churning beneath his feet, he lost his nerve and started to sink. He cried, "Master, save me!" Jesus didn't hesitate. He reached down and grabbed his hand. Then he said, "Faint heart, what got into you?" The two of them climbed into the boat and the wind died down. The disciples in the boat, having watched the whole thing, worshiped Jesus, saying, "This is it. You are God's son, for sure." If you hang around fishermen or people that spend a lot of time at sea, one thing you find in abundance among fishermen and people that spend a lot of time at sea are crazy stories. They have stories of fishermen doing insane things or seeing things out on the water that just bend your imagination. We have fishermen to thank for stories of giant sea creatures and mermaids and cities underwater and the undead and on and on. There's something about being on water that distorts reality a little bit. Think about what it must have been like sitting in that boat, wrestling with the wind and the waves. Some of Jesus' earlier followers, not all of them, but some of them were fishermen from a little fishing village called Bethsaida. And they were probably the ones in charge of keeping everybody calm as the winds howled and the waves crashed over the boat. No, keep the nose of the boat pointed towards the waves. No, that's not a giant squid. I've seen one before. They don't look like that. No, you won't turn into a mermaid. Yeah, lake water really tastes like that. Calm down, everybody. They'd have been the ones trying to calm everybody down. But seeing someone go for a casual stroll across the lake in the middle of the storm, now that would really mess you up, wouldn't it? I know for sure that it would freak me out. The response they hear coming up from across the water is, "Courage, don't be afraid. It's me." In our modern day language, it would be like, "Chill out, guys." Now, I know that for the vast majority of us, our reaction would not be Peter's. None of us would devise the most crackpot litmus test in the world. You can't know for sure who it is that told you to chill out. But if you know anything about water, you know that people don't walk on water. They just don't. But somehow in the mind of Peter, this seems like a perfectly good litmus test. And so he throws out a dumb idea. And just by the way, Peter is Andrew's older brother. You remember joke-cracking Andrew who said we could feed 5,000 people from a little boy's lunch? That Andrew, this is his brother. It must be genetics or something, eh? And here's the thing. For the first 10 or 15 or 20 steps on the water, Peter still doesn't think his idea is dumb. But the further he gets away from the boat, the more his reality hits him. Oh no, what a dumb idea. And he starts to sink. All series long, I've been working on you guys about this dumb ideas concept. And the reason for this is that most world-changing ideas start out as dumb ideas. But the problem with taking risk is you have the potential of ending up in the same place that Peter does. You energize yourself, you launch off the boat, and then somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, you realize that all you have is a dumb idea and nothing else. And there is an audience. You thought you heard Jesus say you could step out of the boat. And you did, even though you couldn't quite clearly see him. Everybody else around you wouldn't do it, but you did. And they don't believe for a moment that it is Jesus calling you out in the storm to step off the boat. They've told you in no uncertain terms that if you step out of the boat, you will fail. And now they're watching you at the point where your faith gives out. That's the problem with dumb ideas, is that if they fail, they will fail spectacularly. You will drown in full view of the people who thought your idea was dumb. And it is that embarrassment that is more paralyzing than the fear of trying out a dumb idea in the first place, isn't it? Let's be honest here. For most of us, the reason why we're not willing to try anything is because we have too much invested in the image of ourselves that we're projecting. We don't want to tarnish it. We don't want to scuff it up with the failures and the risks that we took. And so we play it safe. And so unfortunately what's happening, and I've seen it more times than I care to count, is that if we never put our lives on the line for anything worthwhile, we end up living completely pointless and self-serving lives. There's nothing worse than seeing a person full of potential live a pointless life. Nothing. Here's the thing that people forget about the story of Peter. Is that even though he sank, he actually walked on water. He actually walked on water. He actually walked on water. For a few brief moments on his own, he actually walked on water. And then when Jesus ran up to him and grabbed him, and they walked back to the boat, he walked on water again. I cannot guarantee that every dumb idea you run out with is going to succeed. I'm a pragmatist. Some dumb ideas will have wild success, like the 3 that we looked at earlier this month. But other dumb ideas could very well end up like Peter in this story, with a kind of public failure. But here's the thing. You will never have the chance to walk on water if you do not take a dumb idea every once in a while and just jump out of the boat. You will never know what it feels like to have water feel like it's solid underfoot for a few brief moments. You will never know what it is like to walk with Jesus hand in hand on the water as he rescues you. You will never get to walk on water if you stay in the boat. It's that simple. Now, as I speak, I know that for some of you, tension is rising in your hearts. You're not a risk taker. You're not the kind of person to just run out with a dumb idea. I get that. But I have to let you know something. The way things are in this life, one day you will find yourself in a storm. It is inevitable. Like these disciples, one day you will find yourself in a storm. And I hope that on that day, instead of giving in to fear, you will jump out of the boat and run to Jesus. It's a dumb idea, yes. But when life happens, you can either hunker down or get out of the safety of what you know and step out into the great unknown. Romans 8. So, don't you see that we don't owe it to this all do-it-yourself life 1 red cent? There is nothing in it for us. Nothing at all. The best thing to do is to give it a decent burial and get on with your new life. God's Spirit beckons. There are things to do and places to go. This resurrection life you receive from God is not a timid, grave-tending life. It is adventurously expectant, greeting God with a childlike, "What's next, Papa?" God's Spirit touches our spirits and confirms who we really are. We know who He is, and we know who we are, father and children, and we know we're going to get what's coming to us, an unbelievable inheritance. We go through exactly what Christ goes through. If we go through the hard times with Him, then we're certainly going to go through the good times with Him. Amen.